The Smithsonian Institute continues to be at the center of the Trump administration's heavy-handed revision of U.S. history. Now, since taking office, the president has ordered officials to eliminate so-called improper ideology from its museums. And just this month, the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History altered an exhibit that referenced Trump's impeachments. Now the White House is planning to carry out an extensive review of Smithsonian exhibits and materials ahead of the United States' 250th anniversary next year, all to ensure that they align with Trump's historical vision. Historians and groups like PEN America are sounding the alarm, calling it an attempt to rewrite history and strip truth from exhibits. Here's what Trump had to say about the plans.
Well, we want the museums to treat our country fairly. We want the museums to talk about the history of our country in a fair manner, not in a woke manner or in a racist manner, which is what many of them, not all of them, but many of them are doing.
There you have it. Joining us now is Amara Jones, an award-winning journalist and the founder and CEO of Translash Media, and Dean Obeidallah is back with us as well. Amara, in your response, what is your response to Donald Trump's reasoning around no woke, no racism, but this also being a museum that is supposed to tell an accurate reflection of American history?
Well, there's no authoritarian takeover that is successful without also taking over culture. It's one of the reasons why Adolf Hitler was obsessed with movie making through Leni Riefenstahl. It's the reason why he planned the largest art museum in the world. It's the reason why in the closing days of the Third Reich, Goebbels et al. Were spending precious resources on making fantasy movies about German history, because you have to limit the idea of what's possible, and they know that culture and the arts are doing that. And so they're saying that it's anti-woke, but it seems as if, just even referencing the fact that slavery existed in the United States and that it wasn't a good thing classifies as woke. And I think that we have to just be really clear about what this is, which is about the closing down of the American mind, the closing down of American culture. And it is just what every single authoritarian regime from the beginning of time has to do, which is capture the arts and capture culture.
I'm not necessarily surprised by the Trump administration wanting to do, and I completely agree with you, that they do want to capture culture and reduce and close minds. I'm surprised at the institutions that are going along with this. And when you think of an institution like the Smithsonian, with all of its faults and all of its problems over the years, now at the forefront of this touch point with an administration saying, we want you to revise history, on the heels of going after universities, on the heels of going after law firms. You see that and you say, why is the Smithsonian basically bending the knee to this administration? Is it because of the funding? I'm sure there are enough people out there who are willing to kind of step up and close that gap. Is it because of power? Is it because it's DC? Because it's a national institution? I don't know what it is, but I am more disappointed in them than I am in the president wanting to do this.
Look, what we have now is Trump using the full force of government, using DOJ, FTC, FCC, whatever it is, to investigate those that he wants them to change their behavior to be in accordance with whatever he wants, right? Like any other authoritarian, like any other fascist. You make such a great point. This is the exact playbook through history. So, look, they're worried about maybe being shut down or maybe having an investigation that costs them tens of millions of legal fees. But to me, I think you have to, the important thing is here, with all due respect, my friend, the important thing is looking at the big picture. This is like page after page of the tyrant playbook, the fascist playbook come to life. George Orwell has a famous line in 1984, whoever controls the past controls the future. Right. That's the point of what all of this is. In the same week with Smithsonian, Kennedy Center, and troops in the street, this is the playbook come to life. Yeah. We are at war in America, and Democrats need to get that more.
What I'm saying is,
I understand that, but look, the pressure is too much.
The Smithsonian Institution is not aware of that threat that you're talking about.
I think they are, but
they want to go along with it.
One of the sad stories of the last several months, Eamon, and we've talked about this when we've covered higher education on the show too, is that people like to believe that these institutions that sell themselves, they market themselves as being about academic exploration and intellectual integrity and debate and all these higher ideals, that actually the people running them are very committed to just surviving. And they want to keep their jobs and they want to keep their thing. So how do we work this out, and they're kind of thinking in the short term. And it's heartbreaking when you come to the realization that this place that, I interviewed Amy Sherald, who's a legendary painter who actually just pulled her show from the Smithsonian because they were allegedly upset about one single painting in that show that depicted a transgender person. Wow. And when I spoke to her, which is before this happened, she talked about how visiting a museum and seeing a painting completely changed the path of her career and her decision making and inspired her to become an artist. That's what happens to people when they go to places like the Smithsonian. And so you want to believe that the people who run these places are defending that, but the truth is they're thinking about their short-term survival. I know you have something to say about this, Samara.
Just really quickly, I think that one of the things that is most heartbreaking and what you're pointing out is that actually what the last 7, 8 months, whatever, have been is a stress test for the entire society. It's a stress test for the entire democracy. And I think that one of the things that is heartbreaking is that the people in places that are supposed to be guardians, it's not only people in Washington who are supposed to be guardians of democracy, are collapsing and failing, right? Because there is some idea that you only have to survive this, when this is it. This is the test. Right. If you fail this, everything fails. There is no after this. Yeah. And so I think that one of the things that is heartbreaking are all of these places that do say that they are sort of defending free expression and all the rest of it, caving left and right. And that is actually our failure collectively.
And I think you have to then stop looking to some of those institutions and begging them to be better and different, and start figuring out, well, where are the artists going to go? Where can I see Amy Sherald's work? Right. Where can I see stuff that's going to challenge me? Where can I find a book that's going to make me uncomfortable or make my kids expand their minds and their sense of the world? I think people need to start figuring out how they're going to do that in a communal way, because these institutions are telling us.
I think there are two things that come to mind. Number one, this is as loud a clarion call for the creative community to understand its power as far as its influence on culture and the way that we understand and interpret things. And sort of where you're not engaged, like, this is not the space that you can afford to be apolitical. Or to sort of ride in that way, because you have so much influence, and that's evident by the way that you are being attacked, by the way that this is prioritized by this administration. So you have to get in the game if you are. But one thing I want to say, I don't want to say in defense of these institutions, but as a thought, is that this is an unprecedented level of pressure that they have not experienced, because previously they have been able to operate in a way that allows for them to express this intellectual integrity, to express these differing ideologies, whether people agreed with them or not, because in the name of art, in the name of free speech, it's something that was protected. So for all intents and purposes, there is no playbook in terms of these institutions understanding how to respond. And if there is, Dean, you've made several historical references. What is it, and how do we get it to them?
Look, history tells you when faced with a fascist threat, you have two options: submit or fight. And when you submit, they still come back for you if you're in the group that their base hates, which are people in the arts, which are people in the media, which are the LGBTQ community, Muslims, immigrants, right? So fight. You might as well fight and join together. I don't mean a fist fight. I mean together, help each other, support local artists. Like you're saying, it's not just Smithsonian, support local art shows. Because now we're going to have art at Smithsonian where instead of Washington crossing the Delaware, it's going to be Donald Trump painted on the thing there, crossing the Delaware. You're going to have the Declaration of Independence rewritten for no more John Hancock. It'll be Donald Trump's signature to make him happy. We will not have a real history of this country any longer.
Well, it's not just getting rid of a certain history. It's also rewriting the history of this country. You've got Pete Hegseth, the Pentagon, planning to spend $10 million to return a Confederate monument to Arlington National Cemetery, less than 2 years after a commission recommended its removal. And it just makes you wonder what it says, that they're embracing treason. I mean, basically, that's what the Confederacy was.
And spending that amount of money to do it.
Yes, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, the Confederacy was a group of people who tried to break up this country. They were
and you lost.
They were traitors.
And
but they don't think that they lost. I mean, that's one of the problems, right? Is that the United States never prosecuted. The only person ever convicted in the Confederacy of a crime was the commander of Andersonville, and none of the Confederate cabinet, for example, ever went to jail or faced consequences. But it's also the fact that all of this is also designed to send a very clear message to Donald Trump's base that it's free reign for them to be able to express themselves themselves, either through, confronting people on the street, becoming more aggressive, becoming more violent. Like, these things aren't only about returning Confederate monuments to what some might think is their rightful place. It is also about telling people who hold those views that those views are now acceptable and green light and endorsed by the federal government. So it's turning citizens into your foot soldiers.
And the thing is if we're actually still in 2025 talking about the lost cause and the people still committed to the lost cause, maybe they didn't lose their cause.
That's right.
Yeah, very important point. And to some extent, they may have kind of co-opted other parts of the country in a different way.